Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at Onward and Upward, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Association Insights podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Gallagher, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation as we wrap up our March Leadership Series. Our guest today is Annette Gregg, CEO of the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence. Leading its 2,500 global members and the Site Foundation, she has an extensive background in the meeting and hospitality industry, serving in executive level positions for corporations, associations, and nonprofits. She regularly delivers keynotes on topics including diversity and unconscious bias, promoting women in the workplace, and a variety of professional development topics. She's also a return guest. She joined us at ASAE Annual last summer for a video interview, and we are thrilled to have her back. Annette, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Oh, Colleen, I was so glad to get your call. Thanks for asking me back. It's fun, always fun talking to you.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to chat again as well. So you are about 2.5 years in now in the CEO role. I would love to know, what is that biggest leadership lesson you've had during this time, and how has your vision really evolved as you're coming into this third year now?
Oh, that's a great question. I will give a humble brag. So I haven't updated my bio because we actually have 3,100 members now, which is still
amazing.
So small compared to many of your associations out there. But for us, it's 40% growth over the last 2.5 years. So we're really thrilled by that.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
It is amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a fun time to be in our world, because incentive travel is recognizing top achievement and employees. And so for our members, it's actually, since COVID's over, we've seen such a resurgence in just incentive travel programs, and everyone's rewarding their members again. And so our members are really enjoying some nice growth right now. But back to your question about what's gone on for the last 2.5 years. It's interesting when we start right after a disruption like COVID. So we all stopped, and including the site had to stop some of its key programming during that time. And so I felt we were coming out of hibernation right when I started. And so we just had to take care of some blocking and tackling, if you will, that hadn't been touched in a while. And so that was kind of year one. And then year two, really seeing that growth trajectory. And now at year three, it's really fun. Okay, now what do we want to dream about? Where do we really want to be when we grow up, even though we're 52 years old? So it's really a fun time to, once you get some of those basics down, and then you get the new plateau and the new fundamentals. It's been really great to work with our boards and work with a lot of my new senior leadership that we've hired and say, okay, where do we want to be when we grow up? And so it's just been a joy. It's been really fun seeing a lot of members all over the world. We have, small and mighty here. We have 28 chapters in 90 countries. So there's been a lot of international travel in my life in the last 3 years, but it's been a great ride.
That's amazing. And I'm so excited to hear how things are coming. And I can't wait to see what you all do the next 3 years too. It's going to be really exciting. But the 90 countries thing just blows my mind. That is amazing.
Crazy.
Just such a strong global presence. How do you approach leading when you have this association with so many diverse members and member needs across different regions?
Boy, it's such a good question. Actually, I was just reading an article about growing globally, because those people that know the association, they take for granted that they have so much passion about the brand, so they think there's brand recognition throughout the world. And there's not. There's many times we'll go to a trade show and people will not know who we are. And this is in our space. So we have a lot of excitement about growing the brand internationally. And I have to say, hey, let's think about this as a consumer brand. You're not going to take a new product into a market that has no idea who you are and think that you're going to get shelf space in a supermarket. And so we have to be really, and with a small team, we're about a $6 million budget and we have 15 people on the team. So let's be really intentional, and let's pick one market that we're going to try one thing in this year. And that's what I spend a lot of time doing, is taking what seems like a 1-year plan and saying, okay, let's stretch it to a 3-year plan. And how are we going to measure it? And how do we continue to pivot and beta test and try new things. But it's also probably an evolution that a lot of associations are going through, where you have an aging leadership. So you have the baby boomers who really started the site 52 years ago. A lot of those members are now aging out and retiring. So we have a lot of our growth has been with people that are 30 years and younger. So that is a whole different value proposition. What is that person looking for, that member looking for, versus someone who's really senior and 5 years left in her career? So just really, that's another part of it, is reassessing our core go-to-market value proposition and saying, is that still relevant for our membership, which is changing? I think that's all really exciting opportunity.
It is. And I love you bringing things back to that member prop and talking about being able to, one, articulate it, but also evolve it, because that's just the name of the game right now. And any associations that's having success is having to do that. And we talked about this, I think, a lot in the summer, of that, the younger membership, and just a totally different game in terms of how you entice them to join an association. So it's
true.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think I did talk to you a little bit about this, because I use my son as an example. He's 25, young professional, and he is a member of our association. He's in the business events world. And I know some of our older members talk about that, our acronym is SITE, right? And they talk about the SITE family. And I said, boy, I don't know if you use that acronym to my son, he is going to run away. He'd be like, what is this? What do you mean family, like SITE family? I just need a job, or I just need a promotion. Like, it's a real tangible, tactical reason they join at that age. They're really looking to just level up their career. They don't need a family. So it's like, we just, some of the things we take for granted, though. That's that shifting value proposition. It might eventually become a professional family to him, but that is not an approach that's necessarily attractive to that generation. So I think this is all really interesting, just the psychology of it, of why people join, what they're looking for at different stages in their lives.
Yeah, that's such a great example too, because I think when I was coming to the workforce, it was all like, oh, our workplace is a family. And if you said that now, they would turn around, they say, red flag. They want me to work all hours of the day and night. And I'm not their family.
Exactly, right. Exactly. Yeah, I'll fit them in between yoga and beach volleyball. It's very true. Yeah.
That's so funny. Amazing. As we've been talking this last month on the podcast with different association leaders, we've talked through some really great lessons. And about a week ago, I saw an article you wrote on LinkedIn, and I said, I have to get Annette back on to talk about this. It was about moving forward in turbulent times. And I just want to kind of dig into that and get your take, because I thought it was so relevant and so helpful. And how are you approaching this, ways that organizations and members can stay resilient, can adapt in uncertain business and geopolitical climates?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think I have more empathy now since I'm leading an association. In my last association, I was part of the senior leadership team, and I'd always want more out of our CEO. And you've got to be more of a voice. You've got to be out there and use this platform for good. And association leaders, they are naturally a mouthpiece. They're a mouthpiece for the association community that they represent. So there is an opportunity there, and you might be called an obligation. And I've seen it used in different ways. Some leaders are not comfortable with that, and I get it, because when you represent a diverse constituency, there are a lot of ways that you're going to step into it. If you are not representing everybody's voice, so how do you represent? I'm only 3,000 members, right? So 3,100 members. If you represent 20,000 members, how do you create a statement that is going to be universal? Are you speaking for everyone universally? So I can see how I have more empathy now, how some leaders just choose to sit by the sidelines and wait it out a little bit more. And especially in early days like this, as we're talking about geopolitical turmoil going on, or a rapid change, if you will, at least from the United States. And even though we're in a global association, the U.S. is our biggest constituency, biggest membership base. And then also for the world that I represent, which is incentive travel, it's also a big source market. So U.S. participants are going to these wonderful places to enjoy these incentive travel programs. So the U.S. is an important source market for incentive travel as well. So it does create ripple effects. What's happening now for our industry is we're starting to see some pretty real repercussions. So whether it is tariffs or threat of tariffs, that is going to have direct results on, say, the cost of putting these programs together. Some of these immigration and accessibility or visa policies are going to have direct results on the labor force that's available working at these hotels, or the ability for people to come and go inside the United States freely and travel to and from these programs. So yes, it's really relevant for the space I'm in, which is the greater spaces, business events, and hospitality. So what is my obligation? What is my obligation as a mouthpiece for 3,100 members? It's tough because I cannot be political. We're not, there's a little bit of a nuance to it, but we're not an association that is the way that we are established is we don't have funds to use for lobbying and government influence. Now, we can support and donate to lobbying firms that will represent our interests, but so we don't have a political lobbying part of our association, and we don't have that as part of our charter. So it doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to have an opinion. Absolutely. And that is where, I guess, as the CEO, I figure out, okay, I have to figure out, and with our board and with our senior leadership team, what is the right thing to say? How can we still advocate for our industry without being political? Now, if you want to have a glass of wine with me and we can talk politics all day, I'm not an apolitical person, but what's my obligation to my membership as a CEO? So I think that's where I got to this discussion, back to your reference to the post I put on LinkedIn. I know a lot of people in my space are talking about the challenges, and there's a little bit of a red flag going up, or maybe a big red flag. But it really struck me that while I appreciate that approach, I appreciate the approach of, hey, I'm here, I'm feeling this, and you're probably feeling this too. So I'm a safe space for you. And I'm going to create a safe space for us to all just talk about maybe some of this anxiety or pressure we're feeling. Yes, that's all good. But I didn't see out there, what are things that we have control over? And what are some things I can do as an individual? And so that was just my approach to my post. Is I feel like when things like this happen, massive disruption, economic, global pandemics, anything like that, the fear and anxiety we're feeling as individuals can drive us to inaction and panic because we feel like we have zero control. We are losing control, so I'm going to panic and feel anxiety. And I've been through probably 3 or 4 major economic disruptions now in my career, and we do get over them, we get through them. And I'm learning as we get through each one here, but we can, as humans, we have choice. Every day we have choice, right? And so what are the choices I can make as an individual that will help me weather this storm? So that was the approach I took in the post.
I really like that. And one of the things you called out in there was taking care of ourselves physically and staying in the community. And I do think that's a reminder we all need in this time.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that was a good piece of advice.
Thank you. And yeah, that one I really probably should have been first and foremost, because I think I've done some study in human behavior. I used to talk about just neuroscience and the unconscious bias a lot. I used to speak on that. So I learned just a teeny bit about how the brain works. And again, back to when we panic, it's that fight or flight mechanism, the amygdala hijack, some people talking about, but your brain is just wired to protect you. So it's going to fight or flight. And if we're panicking and we're stressing, then we cocoon, right? We pull in and we're not able to problem solve because we're just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And so I think with big changes like this in the landscape, this can be something we could do, is we just are going to kind of panic and then we fall out of community. And that's where we really lose our perspective and the ability to share and empathy with each other, empathize with each other and say, hey, I'm feeling this. I need to reach out to a friend. So I think community is probably the key to everything.
Yeah.
For support.
Yep. It's funny. I'm calling this like my year of community and connection. I've tried to go to all the in-person things that I can. I'm also trying to virtually then connect anyone I think would be like a good match, especially women within the association space. I've been trying to do that this year. And I just feel it's so needed right now.
Yeah, that's it. And it goes back to, again, just that, is there a safe space? So I'm not the only one feeling this.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, there's something to it. I don't know, Golly, it's a little bit of a tangent. If you've ever done any reading of that Blue Zones of Happiness and like that study that was done, it's probably a decade old now, but then they've done a redo of it. But they looked at the longest living communities in the world, these little pockets of people, and what is it? And everyone's thinking, oh, it's diet, or it's they don't smoke, and it's exercise. And it's like the top thing they all have in common is they have a very strong community.
Wow.
Now,
Okay, I'll check that
it's
out.
fascinating. You got to check it out. You'd love it. It's
Yeah.
now all that other stuff matters for sure, but one of the longest living groups is this Italian American little community outside of New York, and yeah, they smoke. So, but they have the most number of people over 100 years old. So it's funny. It's not a given. It's just the healthy part. It's the physical part. It was about community and emotional well-being.
That's so fascinating. The one other piece I wanted to dig into from your article. So I loved your last bullet. You said double down on your organization's core values. Turbulent times don't have to affect how you run your company, team, or self. And went on to talk about what you're doing at site. And just would love to know your thinking behind that and coming back to those core values, because I do think for associations, whether you take that push into we need to speak out, or if you are more of an association where you don't have that in your charter and you can't advocate, how do you
Yeah.
reflect back to the core values to really look forward and create a direction?
Yeah, and I really appreciate, we use Smith Buckland as our association management company. And my colleague, Mark Sweats, I was asking him, he's our head of operations, but he also is involved in some other associations. And so they've met internally, of course, because they have 1,000 association clients, right? So that is one thing that they've been instructing, and just everybody, as many tumultuous times that we've all been in these associations, that's that core message they keep telling them. And I really appreciated that perspective. And to be fair, I don't receive any government funding. I know that if you have a DEI program that is supported by a federal grant, then that's something that is a whole new world. So
Yeah.
we have a little more autonomy because we're privately funded by our members. And yeah, just because some entity, an elected entity or a government commission has decided that certain things aren't important, it doesn't, and it could bother us on a human level. I don't think it affects how I run the association at all. We're still committed to having the most diverse voices and to hiring a diverse team and to make sure we have pay equity and to make sure that our conferences and live engagement is reflective of our community, especially as a global association. It's like kind of, we are founded on that commitment to at least racial, ethnic, and cultural diversity. So we've always been that all voices welcome approach. But that's just what came to me is we always have control over that. Again, starting with what we have control over. I have control over myself and my beliefs. And if I believe in that, doesn't matter what's happening externally, I can still believe in whatever I want to believe. And then my sphere of influence is my small team. And what can we do at 15 people staff at site to make sure that we are still respecting all voices. And then the community of 3,100 members, and we can still give them the most diverse education opportunities and have things translated in their language. And that I just goes back to, gosh, remind people that you're still committed to what you're committed to. Find your value statement, find your cultural statements on your websites, and continue to remind people we're still here. We're still doing this. We've been through 52 years of disruption. So why would we change now?
Yeah. I do love your acknowledgement, though, of those associations that might be federally funded and have these programs, and they do have to change the words they're using, what they're saying. Like they absolutely do. But I was listening to a podcast. I'm blanking on which one it was right now, but last week about associations, and I loved what they said because it might have been association chat, but they were talking about if you have always had this in your values, double down. Now's not the time to back down. If that's what you believe in
Right.
and that's what you always said, stay with it.
Because that's what I think, that is where your members want to hear from you is, hey, are we still good? I know this is happening out in the world, but are we still good over here? Yeah, we're still good. We're still going forward, and we're committed to providing you member value, your safe space community, what we've always provided you.
Yep. Yep. So another area I think association professionals struggle a little with balance is balancing optimism and realism in leadership. And I'm going to go
Yeah.
back here to an article I read of yours 2.5 years ago. So I probably should have mentioned this in the prep, but you talked about the Stockdale Principle in it.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so good. It's
So
perfect.
tell me about this
Yeah.
and how you're using that in like leading site.
Oh, I love it. And I wrote it in my notes when we were prepping because I first thought about it. I happened to be reading Jim Collins. I was teaching an MBA class during the pandemic, an online MBA class on leadership. And our textbook was Jim Collins' Good to Great. And so he talks about the Stockdale Principle in there. And he interviewed Admiral Stockdale, who was, I think it was a Korea or Vietnam War veteran, but POW, sorry. And long time, like he was in POW camp for, I want to say 6 years. And so he asked him, how did you get through it? And so Stockdale, and this is Jim Collins went on to write a whole leadership approach based on what he learned from Stockdale. But basically, the Stockdale Principle is you have to face the hard truth. Like you can't deny that some things are what they are, but you never lose hope in what can be. And I just think that's really powerful as a leader. And it goes back to creating like space for us all for your teams and for our members to have open conversations. Maybe it's a virtual roundtable discussions and people can just let it all out and say, hey, we get it. We hear you too. We understand that this is affecting. So for our space, how some of the current geopolitical decisions could affect the space we're in, which is global travel, global business events, it will have real effect on budgets as far as food and beverage budgets, and then accessibility, the ability to travel freely across borders, and probably labor forces and the availability of labor if we have some of these immigration changes. So yes, there will be real tangible things that are happening. So we need to make sure that our members maybe are aware of those things, those possible effects, and give some tools on how they can mitigate, at least get ahead of some of the food and beverage or the budget pressures that they're going to feel in crafting their programs. So yeah, let's have an open talk about what some of the things, the real pressures are. And then how can we go back to that? We will get through this. We have been through other things before. For us, our value statement that we feel on a very base level is that nothing replaces face-to-face interaction. So being able to craft these programs where people come together to reward and recognize each other, you can't do that any other way but live. So why we've been able to weather other disruptions, is that incentive travel is a face-to-face activation. The human condition needs it, and business leaders continue to tell us it's the number one way that they can reward high achievement. It's number one way that the employees are valued. So we just need to continue to remind our constituency that, hey, the hope we have is that humans want to be together. So we will always win, no matter the disruptions, no matter how much it costs, and no matter the ability to travel freely. We'll just maybe travel different places, or we'll find different ways to save money in your budget. So those are some of the tangible tools we're giving them while still being aspirational in the end.
Yeah, I love all this. So much great advice. I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you could give just one
Okay.
piece of leadership advice to association professionals that could really create some lasting impact, what is your top piece of advice there?
It's probably something that I've alluded to in the post, but it's just about be careful, guard your brains, guard your minds. And there's a lot of input out there. And I'm not bashing the media at all. The media has to do its job. And a lot of the stuff that is happening is extreme. So I think my suggestion would be just make sure that our brains, because our brains are just going to believe whatever we tell it to believe. So the more we're reading hyperbolic, alarming headlines, then our brain is going to react that way. So I would just say guard your brain, guard our brains with, okay, maybe either it's take a break from the news for a day and go read a novel or go for a walk, get out in nature, or spend a time that brings joy in a way to counterbalance some of the heaviness we're feeling right now, because that goes back to the Stockdale Principle. And so many prisoner of war stories, really, the brain is the only thing nobody could take that from them, right? Their indomitable human spirit. And we need that as leaders too. That if we model that for ourselves, and then we can see, our staff will see that, how we keep perspective, and then our members can see that. Like, it just helps us keep a balanced perspective. I think the more that we balance the input. So I just be wary of just too much news that is coming in too aggressively and maybe even one-sided. Maybe there are websites, I put it in my post, called All Sides, which I'll go to sometimes just to get all political sides of one topic, because it just helps me understand a topic on various levels instead of just a one-way conversation. So that's a long answer to maybe balance input and protect the mind.
No, that's so smart. And it's funny. In my company, that's what we do, is the news. And we have to pay so close attention to it. But we have been really careful with our employees. We told them, if you need a break, take it, because it can burn you out.
Right.
It can really wear you down right now. And you're going to get back to it very quick and get right back in it. You're not going to lose what's happening in the world by missing one day of news.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true. There is that feeling of I have to stay in the know, because what if it be just, I'll call it an addiction, but you definitely can get obsessed with it, where I got to just always, but do you though? Is one day off going to change? One day off. Just try that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so thankful for you joining us today. But before we let you go, we like to wrap up our podcast with some just for fun rapid fire questions. So our
Okay, great.
first one is, have you gotten to get away to anywhere fun lately? And I imagine in your job, you probably get away somewhere fun quite a bit.
Oh, yes, I have been able to. We had our annual conference in Tulum just 2 weeks ago, which is
Wow.
amazing. And I took a little pre-trip. My sister lives down in Cozumel and we scuba dive. So I was able to go diving off the coast in Cozumel as a pre-trip. And I saw a hammerhead shark and another regular shark and rays and moray eels. Like it was an amazing dive, probably the best dive I've done in my life. So that was
That's
really
so
fun.
cool. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
amazing. Awesome. Are you a podcast listener? And if so, do you have any you'd recommend our audience tune into?
Here's my guilty pleasure. I love kind of crime and mystery. So I love This Is Criminal, which is that podcast where they talk about real life crime stories. And some are historical, but they're fascinating. They're good 45 minutes and they're well produced. So that's my go to.
Awesome. I love that. What is one place in the US that you've never been to but are dying to go?
Oh, I love that question. And I actually made it to my husband and I were going to go. The San Juan Islands off of the upper coast of Seattle and close by Canada.
Oh, how
So if you go
cool.
north of Seattle, oh my gosh, they just look lovely. So there's it's where the orca whales
Yeah.
live year round and a lot of hiking up there, big wide open spaces. So we're going to spend some time up there this fall.
Oh my gosh, amazing. That's be fantastic. Okay, last one. Finish this sentence. When you see me
Okay.
looking at my phone, it probably means that I'm
Boy, that's a good one. Ooh, okay. Okay. Probably means that I'm trying to find a good alternative 80s song on Spotify.
yes. I love it.
That's another one of my guilty pleasures is alternative 80s music.
Amazing. Annette, thank you again. I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Oh, Colleen, so great catching up. Have a great weekend.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights Podcast, previously known as the Association 100 Podcast, is a production of Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words of wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupward.com. That's info@onwardupward.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.